hence the sign that says the Neville Company. We're a reenactment group out of New England that reenacts the War of the Roses over in England. That was a war between two families who tried to put their kings on the throne, and it ran from 1455 to 1485. A long time. Won't go into too much detail about it, other than the fact that it was a very interesting time period. I recommend you go home and try to look it up because it's very complicated, a lot of political intrigue, much like what we're dealing with today and everything. The whole idea was each family, their emblems were roses. One family had a red rose, the other family had a white rose. Kind of interesting how the name of the war came about, isn't it? All right. Now, another aspect of the group is that we do Western or European martial arts. What that is it's the fighting style of Europe. A lot of the things you see on Hollywood nowadays, that's not European martial arts. That's a lot of Eastern martial arts thrown in and a lot of Hollywood mumbo-jumbo. You'll see people in Hollywood on TV, they'll go up against a man in armor and they'll cut his arm off when he's in armor. That doesn't happen. A lot of the fighting styles are the same or similar, and the moves are similar to Eastern martial arts. If you folks have practiced or seen a lot of the fighting styles and experienced them, they're similar only because the human body moves the same no matter where you are in the world. Just the way it is. They haven't figured out why. But there is a divergence in the fighting styles in the fact of we've got better armor than they do. I'm a little conceited about that part because I just happen to be wearing a really nice suit of armor. They went off in a totally different aspect for the war, for fighting than we did. We went for more bludgeoning, more violence, a little bit finesse and all that stuff. So.
I like to kill them from a distance. Then I don't need any of that.
Right, right. He's one of them archers. We don't like them archers. They're kind of cowardly, you know. But honorable.
We're the first people who can kill a knight without having to meet him face to face, and they really don't like us. Right. We come from the peasant rank.
Yeah. Just so you know, my name is Sir Brian. I am the president of the Neville Company. This is Master Archer Marcus de Boyer. He is going to talk to you about a couple of aspects on the medieval battlefield. Yes, you had the knights out there, but we weren't the only ones out there, even though sometimes we thought we were. We were the heavy cavalry of the battlefield in medieval Europe. But you also had the archer, you had some men-at-arms. There were several different soldiers out there on the battlefield. I'll let him take over for a little bit because he likes to talk a lot.
At this point in time, right, archery is on the decline actually because the gun is becoming prominent. Now the gun at this point really doesn't kill many people, it just scares the crap out of them because it makes a big boom, there's lots of smoke, lots of flame, but it's really hard to aim at anything past much like 40 yards. Whereas we can hit things by choice at 220 yards or further. One gun can shoot about twice a minute. We can get off about 15 arrows a minute. Guns are really prone to being next to useless in the rain, as were the crossbows at the time because the strings stretched out. These are the bows that we were shooting had the same problem, but we could restring them. You can't string a 600-pound crossbow in the field. So when the strings got wet, they stretched, the crossbow's power went down, the range went down below that of the longbow. In fact, you've all heard it being a second stringer, right? In fact, today that is not a compliment if you're in the second string, but actually the second string comes from archery. We kept the dry string in our hat. So if it got wet in the rain, we take this string off, and we take the second string out, and we string the bows and go back into battle. Right? Now, many people ask, how is it that somebody with a little bow like this and a little arrow like this could kill someone like that? Well, the bows and arrows of today aren't much like the bows and arrows of the War of the Roses, or even before that in Agincourt. This bow pulls at about 45 pounds. The bows that we brought up from the Mary Rose in the early 1500s, after archery has really lost its prominence, still are averaging 140 pounds. The lightest bows on that ship were 90, the heaviest bows were 180. Okay? If you asked an archer back then, what weight bow do you pull? They would look at you like you had two heads. They don't know. They pull the strongest bow they could. So when you string a bow, you don't do it like, in America, I don't even do this. They put their legs in like this and then they bend it around. You never do that with a long bow because you're going to overstress the limbs. I guess if your bow is made of fiberglass, it probably doesn't matter. But what you should do is you put your bow into your instep, you pull the center and push the string up. Now if you try to do this at home, when you release the string, keep your arm between you and the bow. Because if you haven't done it right, the bow's going to snap back, hit you in the head, and somewhere out there I'm laughing. So this bow, if you can imagine 4 of these strapped together, and then this arrow, 3 of these strapped together. The arrows were a 1/2 inch in diameter at the tip. They weighed 1/4 pound.
That's a cheeseburger.
And those are the arrows that we were shooting 220 yards. They did go through their breastplates and through their armor. And the concussive tests we've done have shown that on a charging horse, that if one of these hits you in the helmet and doesn't deflect, it can snap your neck. That's the kind of power you're dealing with these archers. In fact, they've been training for so long that some of the skeletons we've dug up have shown anomalies to the upper skeleton around the shoulder blades and the clavicle and the ribs from all the pulling and the power that they have shown. They don't draw, I won't aim this at anyone. The way we draw today, we consider Olympic style, and they stand nice and straight and they draw the arrow back. They couldn't do that. They brought the arrow up, they used all of their back muscles and even part of their leg muscles. And pull down into it. Actually, they call it sitting in the bow. And then as they release, they push off the back leg to help basically uncoil the muscles all at once. They hated us. We loved them. Because there's about 8 of us on the field for every 1 of them. And when they finally make it through the ranks, those of us, those who don't get shot, we gang up. Because they're worth money. Look at that, ladies. So we're all gonna rush in. We're gonna hit him. We're gonna trip him. We're gonna put him on the ground. Okay. I'm gonna step on him. No. I'm gonna step on his arm probably so he can get to me. I'm gonna take my finishing dagger. I'm gonna put it in his visor, and I'm gonna ask him to surrender. Now I really don't care what his answer is. Okay. Because if he surrenders, I've got ransom. If he doesn't surrender, I'm gonna sell his armor after I push this through his visor. So one way or the other, knights are worth something to me. Unfortunately, I'm worth nothing to a knight, because I'm a yeoman. I'm the top level peasant. I'm like the valedictorian of summer school. So, right, I'm really not worth anything, so they're gonna just kill me out of hand. So if they do make it through the lines, we have nothing but to charge them, because otherwise we're toast.
Now that's another thing that brings up is, yes, the knights were worth a lot of money. Again, remember that, ladies. All right, money. War back then in Europe was big business. Not so much in the War of the Roses because we hated the other team. It was English versus English. It'd be like the New England Patriots playing against themselves, all right? When we were going up against the French, we wanted to capture the other nobility, be it a knight, a lord, a king, whatever. The reason being is we would capture them and we would ransom them back for a lot of money. That was how we made a lot of our income. So that's why there were a lot of wars back then. A lot of kings, they would find their coffers dipping down a little bit. Oh, let's go to war with the neighboring kingdom. Now the knight, as I said, is the heavy cavalry of the medieval battlefield. You would start off at a young age as what's called a page. You would have been sent to a lord or another knight at about this young man's age right here. He would start helping around the household, the castle, whatnot, learning how to take care of, from the ladies of the house, learning how to purport himself, learning respect, learning dealing with the horses and such. When he got to an older age, he became a squire and actually was able to start working with military training, putting the armor on his knight. He would also start getting used to wearing the armor and horsemanship, because that's a big thing with knights, is we ride horses. Not today, they're a little expensive to bring here, so we didn't bring them. But he would be learning how to, the medieval warfare from horseback and foot combat. What you're going to see is the foot combat aspect of it. At a certain point in time, he is either going to get knighted, or he's going to become a man-at-arms and work for someone. We have a man-at-arms here, Man-at-Arms Anthony.
Yeah.
And basically what Man-at-Arms Anthony's goal would be was to either A, work towards earning his spurs, which means he's going to be knighted. And if you notice, I'm wearing spurs, which means I'm a knight. Or he's content to be a man-at-arms because when we become knights, we gain a lot more responsibility. Yes, we make a lot of money, but we gain a lot more responsibility. We have a lot more land to take care of. We have to bring more men to the fight. We're in charge of that. Man-at-Arms doesn't have to do that. He can just keep training and training and training and get well paid. And if his lord is pretty well to do, he gets nice armor and equipment to fight in. And he's well taken care of. Now the squire is eventually going to become, like I said, a man-at-arms or a knight. Now we have two squires with us today, Squire Josiah and Squire Kyle. They're working their way up to either become a man-at-arms or become a knight. Now if you notice, fighters, if you would stand up please, those who aren't. Now there's another person on this battlefield that is wearing spurs. Can you guess which one it is? This is Dame Tanis, Neville Company's very first female knight. She was knighted only a couple months ago, but she earned her spurs the old-fashioned way. She worked hard.
Put up with John.
Yes, yes. She worked as a squire for our team, our captain, and that was worth its weight in gold right there, I tell you what. What you're going to see today is you're going to see us fighting. This will be Tanis's second fight in armor. She hasn't been fighting in armor that long, although she has trained long and hard in unarmored combat. So you'll be seeing a little bit of history today. Those of you with cameras may want to get them ready. Now also, how warm is it out there for you folks?
Hot.
Hot? Hot? What is it, like 80 degrees, 70 degrees? 86 degrees. Here's a little bit of math for you, okay? 86 degrees. It's 30 degrees hotter in these suits for us. You can do the math. It's the weekend. I'm not going to do that. Now also, everybody asks this question, and I always answer. The question is, how heavy is this suit of How heavy is this suit of armor? This suit of armor weighs 85 pounds. Okay? Now it is solid metal. Yes, it is real. I weigh 165 pounds outside the armor. Actually, with it as hot as it is today, I probably weigh 10 pounds less than that right now. So you can do the math. I'm not going to again, I say, because it is the weekend. And there we go. I'm ready to fight. Now, you want to do your safety spiel? All right.
All right, so when they're fighting, there's a couple things that you have to. We're going to get this going real quick here because you're all being patient. But when they're fighting, they are concentrating on each other and not you, right? And what my job is to make sure that you're safe, and that if anything goes wrong with their armor, that I point it out so that they can stop. Because it takes a long time to train one of these guys. We really don't want our insurance premiums to go up. So I'm going to be moving back and forth along the fronts. Now, if I end up standing in front of this gent here, right, it's not because I want someone to take pictures of my bouquet. It is because I am trying to make sure that everybody is safe. I will move out of your way if you're waiting to take a photo. Just give me a minute to go back and forth. Right, I am what they call the marshal of the fight. I get to tell them when they start, when they stop, and why. Okay, they will be taking rests because one of the worst things about this is heat exhaustion. Every once in a while, if they call for a halt, the squires will come out, give them some water, give them a rest. During that time, we'll probably talk about a couple other things that have to do with training. So I think our first battle is going to be between who? What? Who's going to be in the first battle?
I'll be going against Man-at-Arms Anthony.
All right. I hope we'll see. Sir Brian versus Man-at-Arms Anthony.
Yes.
As soon as he gets his helmet on.
The Man Mountain.
And you're going to be
And then
fighting
there's
with
Anthony.
long sword.
That's getting rather personal, don't you think?
You're not going to be caught with that, right?
No.
This is one of the most dangerous weapons on the field.
Money's on Bernie.
Money's on Bernie.
All right.
I like this man.
This is a traditional quarterstaff. Now, of course, in that day, they didn't have nice boards. Quarterstaffs are growing all around you. Right, you cut down the sapling, strip off the bark, and the masters in England would tell you reach as high as you can and add a foot. That's the quarterstaff that you're using. What we see in the Robin Hood movies. The Robin Hood movies are the Victorian era's version of quarterstaff that they had to shorten because there wasn't a lot of room on stage. Right, and they held them on the middle so that they weren't hitting the audience when they were on stage. But this is an actual quarterstaff length, and you held it this way. Okay, and this is your defensive posture. Right, so when somebody strikes at my head, all I have to do is pull this into my hip. I deflect and whack them in the head. If they come down at my legs and my hips, I pull this up and ram it into their face. So this gives me a lot of reach on a guy with the sword. And I can hit him so hard with this that I would actually crush or dent his breastplate. Just with my training, not with years and years of training as a soldier. This is one of the most dangerous weapons on the field, and it's very cheap. So the quarterstaff is a nice thing to have around. I'm going to use it for marshalling today because I can reach in without having to get too close to their swords and get hit in case it offends them. The arms Anthony is wearing here is called a brigandine, or a coat of plates. It's much less expensive than those and nearly as protective because all of these plates, you can see there's 4 here, are connected to another set of plates on the side. So anywhere I hit him, okay, that force is redirected to the other plates. Rather than trying to prevent me from puncturing with the sword, it's going to absorb the force and spread it out across his body. It's much cheaper, easier to fix in the field. Of course, if he was rich enough, he would try to buy a breastplate and the rest of his armor. But for the most part, in this time period, unless you were a wealthy knight, you're actually putting your armor together with bits and pieces that you took off of dead people on the field. So very often you would see armors with mixed pieces. The stuff that you see in museums is often tournament armor, sometimes display armor that was left alone because it wasn't really fighting grade. And so they are full suits because they were made to be on display. When we were talking before about the quarterstaff, if man-at-arms Anthony was trying to come in at me, right, I can hit him, go ahead. Right, I get direct, hit him in the head, here, push him back, right, get out in the crotch, which he isn't going to like, and I'm not going to hit him hard. So if I do that, and then I double him over and come down on his head, if I do hold it in the middle like this, it's more limited. But if I can block and crack him in the side of the head, you're right. Right? When I first told him about quarterstaff, they said, well, you'll never be able to hit me with one of those. Actually, this hits much harder than that does. That's still a test right there. Sorry about that. It was a little harder than I was thinking. All right. You ready to go? All right. There. Okay. Knights to the ready. Lay on. Water. Second battle.
Yeah.
Right. This time I actually get to say for real, knights salute.
Yeah.
Whack it.
Take him.
Hit him. Hard.
There you go.
Yeah.
Get him, get him!
Nice.
Got hold. What?
There you go.
She may want to fight with the cover down.
Yeah, well, so you may be able to fight with the pepper down. Be a little bit more head space. Yeah, you're
Yep.
fully covered. We can fight with the pepper down. A little more air. All right, this is going to be our last pass for this afternoon. All right, so let's hear it for them. Remember, they can...
Look at us.
Guys ready? Leon.
Dennis.
Come on, Dame Tennis. There you go.
There you go.
Hit him again. Hit him again.
No.
Hold. Okay, last time.
I'm good with the cover.
All right. Oh, that is okay?
I'm fine.
All right. Leon.
Right.
Hold. All right, let's hear it for our night.
That was rather interesting for me. That was only the first time I've ever fought her in armor. As Marcus was saying, there's a lot of tactics involved in medieval fighting. Not just the hack and slash that you see in Hollywood. Now what we're going to do is our squires are going to hand around a helmet. What we're doing this year is we're collecting money for Zoo, which is an animal sanctuary and zoo up in Mount Vernon, Maine. They're a rescue facility, they're a rehabilitation facility, and they're a zoo. So if you feel so inclined, please rub a little bit into the helmet. Fuzzy critters.
Yeah, that was the one that was there.
If you have any questions,
left it
feel
there.
free to come by our encampment. Ask them, we may actually have an answer.
The bench
We do
fell
take
over when they were
pictures, and
sitting
if you
on
want,
it,
we can
so.
So please, come on by and check us out.